Hi, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I was reading this blog by Hodor yesterday. If you've been in the XRP community for any length of time, you'll know that this guy's essentially legendary. A fantastic writer, strong cheerleader for XRP, Ripple, and the community at large. So I'm a big fan. So anyway, I was reading this yesterday. I'm going to link to this in the description. If any of you have listened to more than one of my YouTube entries here, then you know that I don't read blogs or articles, maybe little snippets here and there. But this is a great piece, and it's very timely. He probably wrote this in large part because of what just happened with Ethereum Classic being successfully 51% attacked. But that's because of the underlying technology, which was pioneered by Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, who created it. He or her or they, I think it may have been more than one person. I'm sure it's a made-up name. But anyway, there are a lot of reasons that proof of work is inferior technology, in particular compared to the underlying technology that runs the XRP ledger. And he cites a few of these. Again, I'm not going to run through all of these, and you may know some of these already. There's the energy consumption aspect. It offers poor security, 51% attack. No scalability, unless maybe Lightning Network works, we'll see, but even then there's arguments that it would be a centralized solution for poor underlying technology. Then there's infeasible transaction costs and unbearably long settlement times. This one in particular is interesting to me because this is one that I didn't realize this until May of last year. I'd been in crypto at that point for about half a year. But did you know that when a Bitcoin transaction settles, it isn't actually ever 100% settled? And I learned this in May of last year, and it just completely blew my mind. But that's because the technology underlying it is probabilistic rather than deterministic. The XRP ledger technology is deterministic, which means that once a transaction is validated, that's it. The ledger is closed. There is no changing it. In order to change it, you'd have to break cryptography, and that would be an interesting conversation on its own, because you'd be talking about, I think maybe people are theorizing quantum computing will do that at some point down the road, but you'd be talking about all forms of cryptography essentially no longer working. So again, fun topic for another time. Outside of that, 100% certainty, every time a ledger is closed on the XRP ledger, it's done. That's it. But with Bitcoin, that's just not the case. And so I'll read just this little snippet here that Hodor wrote. Did you know that even if you wait for the recommended 6 confirmations, sometimes taking over an hour, that your Bitcoin transaction is never completely settled with 100% probability? This is because Bitcoin is not a deterministic protocol. It is a probabilistic one that depends on the gradual increase in historical transaction blocks to provide enough assurance to recipients that they truly own the value transferred. For Bitcoin, the recommended number of blocks is 6, and it can take up to an hour to arrive at this level of assurance. And isn't that amazing? So this technology, when it was created, Satoshi Nakamoto knew this and actually wrote about it. And so, I mean, it was never, ever going to be an actual fix. And I'm still grateful for Bitcoin, don't get me wrong, but because it started all of this, but I don't see how this technology is going to have any staying power. And continuing on, Hodor writes, XRP, by contrast, is a deterministic protocol, which means that once a transaction is validated and included in a closed ledger, you have 100% assurance that the transaction will not be rewritten or reversed. Not ever. And that's amazing to me. And so the XRP ledger cannot be 51% attacked. It simply cannot. And again, that's because of the consensus technology that's underlying it in terms of solving the double spin problem. So Bitcoin solved the double spin problem with proof of work, mining. XRP ledger, they solve the same problem in a different way. It's just there's an 80% threshold, and as long as 80% of the participants agree that transactions occurred in a specific order, then that's written to the block. Or XRP ledger, it's actually called a ledger. the terminology blocks like technically isn't used, but it's the same technology. Again, that actually would be fun to talk about, but that's a different technical conversation. But that's important for a couple of reasons. I mean, consider lag time. This is the one that always comes to my mind first and foremost. Why does it matter to properly order transactions? And how does that solve the double spend problem? Well, consider, so say you're on a phone call with somebody, and maybe they're just in the other room in the same building. Maybe when you hear their voice on that phone, it's about 100% certainty you're not literally hearing it in real time. It's close enough that you can have an actual conversation that's functional, right? But there could be a split-second delay, a quarter of a second, half a second, whatever it may be. Well, what if that person were on the other side of the planet? It takes a while for that audio signal to make it to your eardrum. And that could be more than a second, or 2 seconds, or 3 seconds. And that's just how it is when you're... Same for emails. It doesn't matter if it's a phone, so audio, if it's an email. It takes time for that data to travel across the globe. And when you're talking about the XRP ledger, which is global, it's global. It's decentralized distributed ledger technology. When you're talking about that, well, lag time alone makes it such that if you're you're a part of the XRP ledger and you've got all these transactions coming in, you're going to see them arrive in a particular order. But you could see them arrive in a different order if you're in a different part of the world. And so what consensus does is it'll take a look at the threshold is 80%. If 80% of participants on the XRP ledger agree that a transaction on the ledger closed in a particular order, then it is written. It is written, that ledger is closed, it can never be reversed. And so that's how the double spend problem is solved. You don't need proof of work, which is probabilistic. What you need is something that provides actual certainty, and it can be done via consensus. And and again, so even if somebody did want to attack the XRP ledger, it wouldn't be very fruitful, because given that we already know that it's literally impossible to rewrite blocks, rewrite ledgers on the XRP ledger, the worst that you can do is stop forward momentum. But I'll tell you what, if the XRP ledger is under attack, the last thing that I want is forward momentum. I say let it stop. Because what's happening with these 51% attacks is they're literally reorganizing previous blocks. They're rewriting history. That's insane. That's how you get double spend. It's theft. You cannot do that on the XRP ledger. And so when I think big picture, what technology is actually going to be adopted globally? Look, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm certainly not a financial advisor. But I don't see how proof-of-work technology is a long-term solution for, frankly, anything. And I saw earlier today, Galgachan retweeted this CoinDesk piece, and it's an interesting read. He's talking about 51% attacks, how costly it can be from... to attack the Bitcoin blockchain versus Ethereum Classic. It was fun to read through, even though he doesn't know what ad nauseam. This is funny. This is humor me for just a moment. This is because I'm a stickler for grammar and stuff, except for when it comes to tweets. I'll be a little bit relaxed on that. But he wrote somewhere on here. Where is this? He wrote ad nausea, and it's supposed. Where did he? There it is. I knew I read that earlier. Ad nausea. No, it's not ad nausea. It's ad nauseum. It's Latin. But anyway, that's just me being a stickler. Forgive me for that. But interestingly enough, so at the end, the conclusion that this guy comes to, and not surprised reading this from CoinDesk, but the conclusion that they come to in the end as it pertains to proof of work, he writes at the end, community equals security. And I'm not going to rehash this whole article. I'll link to this so you guys can read through it. It is worth reading, I think. But essentially, if there's a lot more mining, community involvement on a blockchain, there are technical reasons for why it is difficult to engage in a successful 51% attack. Okay, and so in their mind, okay, the technology's fine. Let's just participate more in the ones that get the most people behind it. I guess that's okay, And never does he mention that there are digital assets, cryptocurrencies out there that use different technology that are immune to 51% attacks. Now, of course, would you expect CoinDesk to cite XRP as being impenetrable in that fashion? Well, Okay, I'm not exactly surprised, okay? But still, it's worth noting. And I just think big picture, you know, if you want a coin that has staying power, it's got to solve the double spin problem by means other than proof of work. And then I looked at Weiss here, and they put this out a little bit earlier today. This is just fun to look at. According to Crypto51.app, here's how much it would cost to launch 51% attacks for 1 hour, and it's on these various just coins. So for Ethereum Classic, per hour, it would cost $3,965. ZEC, I don't know what that one is off the top of my head, but $14,320. XMR, shoot, I can't remember that one either. Maybe it's Monero. I'm not going to pull it up. It doesn't matter. 4,589 BCH, Bitcoin Cash, of course. 9,155. Ethereum, $79,078. And Bitcoin, $246,083. Then they write, it is still possible to rent enough computing power for another 51% attack for ETC, Ethereum Classic. And maybe that sounds like a lot to you, but I'm telling you, if you're a nation state, if you're, pick a country, you might have the funds to make this happen. And my gosh, if you can imagine in a world where we have a cryptocurrency, say it is Bitcoin, and it's globally adopted, and then you have most of the mining occurring in China, do you not think that it's literally impossible for them to hijack the entire blockchain? 51% attack? Monetarily, what would that mean, and how many people would it hurt? Who are their adversaries? There's a lot to consider here. And to just assume that it's not going to happen because it hasn't is a big mistake. It's a huge mistake. So it's just food for thought. I think it's going to take a long time to see exactly how this plays out. You know, if at some point people investing in cryptocurrencies, in digital assets, if there are enough 51% attacks and it just becomes agreed upon that this is not sufficient technology, we need another solution, which does exist again. XRP Ledger has it. If it's widely agreed that a different solution needs to be widely adopted, you can expect the market as a whole to tank. And that's because the vast majority of coins out there are powered by proof of work. And it's going to drag everybody down. It'll drag down the price of XRP if that happens. But understand that there's actual utility to XRP. It's not going away as long as people can find uses for it. Okay? And so if it becomes globally adopted, or it's even in the process of it, or even if we haven't reached that point yet, if there's just actual potential for use, like I said, it's not going to go away. And I think what I would do, and this is not financial advice, but what I would do, if I saw the crypto market tank specifically because people are recognizing, like, God forbid, if Bitcoin actually were 51% attack, can you imagine the panic that would ensue? Market would tank. And what I would do is I would dollar cost average on the way down. I would just buy more and more XRP and other coins that are not using proof of work technology. That's what I do, because I understand that cryptocurrency and digital assets, there are actual use cases for them. So whatever the price action is in the short term, to me personally, it doesn't matter. They're here to stay. So I'd buy more and I'd wait over time, and I know what's going to rise to the top. And right now it's looking like XRP, ultimately, it's probably going to be number one in market cap. Not that that's the best indicator of how important or the coin is, the best use, but still, I'm just saying I still think it will end up there, and I think it's probably for the foreseeable future, for decades and decades probably, and I don't have a crystal ball, but if I were forced to guess right now, I'd say it's always going to be towards the top. And it is in the process of being globally adopted, the best I can see, and there's a lot of reasons to believe that it's got staying power. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about today, but again, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and link the articles below, read through them, and I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Please hit like and please subscribe. Makes me feel good inside, and I would really appreciate it. I'm doing this as a hobby just for fun. That's all this channel is, because I'm a true enthusiast when it comes to Ripple and the XRP community. And to me, honestly, it's a lot more fun the more participation there is. So if you would be willing to hit like, and if you would be willing to subscribe, I would absolutely love that. And if you want to drop something in the comments below, I do read everything, and I will respond. So thanks again so much for listening, and I'll talk to you again soon.